Hello everyone and welcome to my balcony garden. Today's video is all about aftercare for hyacinths grown in pots. I recently did a video about how to care for hyacinths grown in pots and how they grow. I'll link it above if you're interested. Let's get started. So we're going to take this hyacinth here as an example. It grew 2 flower spikes over seams, and as you can see, both have now wilted. The older flower spike is actually starting to go brown. The individual flowers are shriveling up and falling off. So that means it's time to deadhead. Deadhead basically means cutting the flowers off. With the second spike here, I'm going to cut this one off as well, even though the flowers are still looking all right. The scent has gone. You can kind of smell that it's not that beautiful, fresh hyacinth fragrance that we're used to. It's kind of gone over. And of course the stalk has wilted as well, so I'm just going to cut this one off too. So all you do for deadheading is to take a pair of secateurs that have been sterilised, take hold of the flower stalk and go as deep into the flower as possible without damaging the leaves, because we need the leaves still. So I'm just going to go in there and cut you off there. There we go. You can see that the leaves are still looking this beautiful green colour, looking really, really healthy. So what we're going to do is leave them on the bulb, as I mentioned before, because we need them, or the bulb needs them. The bulb is going to start photosynthesizing at a higher rate, and it's going to be producing food that can be stored in the bulb for next season's growth before it goes dormant in summer. At this point, you have a few options of what to do next. The first option is to just simply leave your hyacinth bulb as is and place it, as I said, into a nice bright sunny position, either outside or at least maybe a south facing window where it's going to receive lots of daylight, so maybe about 6 to 8 hours of light a day. The second option is to actually transplant your hyacinth bulb into a slightly larger pot, but mix it with new and fertile compost. This is going to help the bulb really replenish its reserves, and it's going to help actually with the flowering next year, because the more energy that we can provide for the bulbs this year, hopefully it's going to end up with better growth in the season to come. You might notice that your hyacinth bulbs shrink considerably during and after flowering, and this is because flowering is a very energy intensive process. So by placing your bulbs in new compost, it's going to help with the whole overall growth process. The third option is very similar to the second option, which is basically planting your hyacinth bulbs out into the open soil, or if you have a large container or a planter, you can plant it into there as well. But of course, you might not have that option, and this is a video about hyacinths in pots, so we'll just leave it at that. With any option that you go for, as I mentioned before, make sure that the hyacinths are receiving lots of light, preferably in full sun. Water regularly, but make sure that the bulbs are never sitting in water, otherwise it could get root rot or other fungal diseases. You can also feed your hyacinth with an indoor plant fertilizer, and again, this is going to add even more energy to your bulbs. So once the bulb has finished its growth cycle, the leaves are going to turn brown, they're going to be all floppy, and this is the time where we just cut off all the remaining foliage right back down to the bulb. It's time for the bulbs to now go into hibernation, to go dormant. It's the sleep time for the bulbs. And again, there are 2 options how you want to do this. You can either take your pots exactly as they are and put them into a dry, dark, cool space. Some people actually like to put them into paper bags or some sort of bag that is breathable, and this is going to reduce the light levels even further, which is again going to help with growth in the next season. The other option is to remove the bulb completely from its pot, brush off all the soil, and allow it to dry for maybe about a day on a piece of newspaper or something like that. Allow it to dry fully before then putting it in this dark, cool spot. Before you do any of that, however, check that the bulb is healthy, that there are no signs of pests or diseases. And I would also recommend labelling your bulbs, or if you have them in sort of boxes, label which box is box, because sometimes when you have a lot of bulbs, it can be confusing about which one is which. You forget about them and be a bit confusing. So that was my video on hyacinth aftercare. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, support the channel by subscribing. I hope you're all staying safe and well, and I send you all my good thoughts and wishes, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.